start right now. Start small. Start as soon as possible. Honestly, I think you could do a lot just going back to your roots. You've got the heart, you've got the mission of where you want to go. The only thing that's missing is the small action steps to start building momentum. We got Jay Lyman in the house. He's a new member to Movement Makers. Joined us for a year after our Built to Serve challenge, and as part of that, we're doing an IG live to see how it can help. See how we can go deeper. So basically how this works, Jay, is whatever's on your mind. Whatever you're going through, whatever you think I can give some feedback or advice on. Let's jam for a little bit. So what do you got?
Well, I've been following you for a while on YouTube and, places like that. And I got more and more interested about what you're doing. I signed up for a couple of your email courses, and, I've been trying to go through that. And then somehow or another, I got a email about the Movement Makers. And, that was in the back of my head because this past year said, somebody had spoken to me about, if you really want to do something for this group of people that you're trying to reach, you need to start a movement, and so it was back there. And then when I heard, Movement Makers, so I went for the 7-day challenge, and it was just incredible. I mean, I was just amazing. It deeply impacted me. I bought both your books on Audible, and I ordered the hardbacks, and, so I've been working especially on my who and my why.
Okay.
And so I also started, YouTube, and I've had TikTok for a while. I've been trying to figure that out. And so I've been into social media just for this first quarter of the year. I mean, I have not done anything for years on social media at all, just zip. And so a lot of stretching, a lot of growing. And so I'm at this point now where I'm like, okay, I have been studying like insanely for the last 3 months, all about, internet, e-commerce and digital marketing and all these different kind of topics. And then in that process, I had brought up, what they call the niche market, what is my niche? And, so it's young people, youth at risk and veterans, especially veterans at risk, military personnel and all that. And the kind of feedback I have been getting as well, you're not going to make any money in either one of those niches. They, pretty much go find something else and make a bunch of money, and then you can have a pet project where you help these kind of people.
Are you a veteran yourself?
Yes, sir, I am. Yeah. And so, I spent a lot of years in the Army, in the U.S. Army. From the age of 17, I had to have my parents sign for me, and I, went off and did my thing, and I was in the Guard and reserves. And so I've seen it from all different angles. Traveled the world, went to a lot of really bad places.
I can imagine, man. And so you want to help people. So finding your niche is easy. Your niche is who you used to be. So, the reason why I asked you if you were a veteran is because I love veterans. When I did my tour across the U.S., we hit 23 cities in 90 days. And I made a partnership with an organization called Bunker Labs, which is a veterans group that they try to help people who are veterans get back into society and have start their own business. And so at each of my events, there were a couple spots. If a Bunker Labs had a location in that city, they got a couple of free seats to come out to my event. So I love it, happy to, but I'm not a veteran, right? So my story can't be, I deeply want to go and help. I know what you're going, I don't, I don't. I can have empathy, but I can't imagine, what you've seen and what you've gone through, and veterans wouldn't listen to me on that side because I'm not a veteran, right? And so your niche is who you used to be. I love helping entrepreneurs at the start of their journey because that's where I struggled the most as a human. And I've got a lot of stories and things that I can share around that. So that's your, and for you and for everybody else who's watching live or the replay, that your niche is who you used to be, and you want to go help the people who currently are struggling with the thing that you struggled with, and help people realize that there's hope and that they're not alone and that they can get out. So if you're going to target, you want to go help veterans, is it veterans who are now coming back to, like, what was the hardest moment of your life as a veteran?
I think it was after I got out. It was having a lot of baggage from the military, trying to fit back into civilian life without any idea what I was doing or even what had happened to me. Just when you're a civilian, it's a completely different mindset, and you go into this environment and they literally break you down to nothing and rebuild you the way they need you to be to accomplish their mission. And so that process affects every area of your entire being, and you become a totally different person. You retain some of your personality, but the way you think, the way you act, the way you talk is radically different. And so when you spend years and years, even your paper pushers and your office workers in the military are different than civilians. But when you take it to the extent where you begin teaching an individual how to take the life of somebody, how to kill people, and that becomes their job. And then within a few days or weeks, you're now back on the block trying to be something completely different, then you're no longer that person. And so there was a lot of struggles in that. And without any, I didn't even know there was a VA. When I first got out, I never heard of the VA. I was never given a briefing. And I'm sure nowadays people getting out are much better briefed. But the VA is such a horribly broken system in every way. It really only can do so much. And there's a lot of really good people in the VA, but it's a government system, and there's no real government programs that really work outside of building roads and going to war, And so what I quickly discovered is that I was pretty much on my own, and it was really difficult. And I began meeting a lot of other veterans who went through the same kind of experiences, and who, once they got back on the block, had the same kind of challenges, And so I'm thankful that, my body is in one piece. However, there's some issues that, I've got 3 spinal injuries. I've had 4 traumatic brain injuries. I've got some issues that I don't look like I'm messed up, but I'm still struggling with stuff that's just going to take time, So
do you know what you want to create, or you're figuring that out?
Yeah, I've been writing on this for a while. I began writing. My history, when I was younger, I was a youth pastor. And so there's a lot of similarities between young people going through trauma and dealing with PTSD, as well as veterans, because, young people are in an environment like I lost my mother when, 3 days after 6th grade, got out for the summer, my mother died. And within a week, we moved out into a community where I was the odd man out in many ways. And so there was a lot of trauma going on at a young age. And without people to help me or guide me, no mentorship, no nothing. I was on my own. And so I eventually became a youth pastor. And one of the things that I saw with working with youth, you can do a lot of work with people, in their environments, in their neighborhoods and stuff like that. But the real benefit, the real powerful effects happen when you pull them out of their bad environments, out of all the negative surroundings, all the garbage they're in, and you take them out to a retreat for 2 or 3 weeks out in the woods, or, go out to some resort somewhere, and you just focus on helping them with their life issues. And so, I'd run a retreat of 120 youth kids, a youth retreat of 120, and amazing things would happen. And then they go back to their lives with the same negative people, the same influences, and within a few weeks or months, they'd be right back into the mud pit they're in. And so it started, way back when, this idea of developing a place where people could go. It started out with the youth at risk. And then once I went through the veteran thing, I'm just like, you know what? Veterans need this as much or more, because if we can fix these veterans and get them functioning again properly, then they could be involved in helping the youth that are, these are 2 categories of people in our countries that are at the most risk, next to old people. And so developing a location where people can go and get the proper education and motivation and understanding of how to live their best lives. Because most of what we really need in life is not taught in school. You either catch it here or there, or somebody tells you, hey, you need to go and learn about this. And so being able to take these people, give them what they need, and slowly reintegrate them into society and help them become the leaders of the community, So that's what I'm looking at. And, the big picture is, $50 million is what it's going to take on the low end to get everything up and running, fully staffed, fully running, all of that kind of thing. And once it's up and running, then it'll become fully self-sustaining and, self-perpetuating. But the initial getting it going is the big part.
How mentally stable do you think a lot of the people think about yourself, for example? Like, have the Big Brother program?
I've heard of it. I haven't been involved, and I couldn't really say a whole lot about it.
Okay, so imagine the idea is, hey, you're taking people who are in need of guidance, maybe a parental figure, the bigger brother concept, and they don't have that in their life right now. So it's kind of ongoing mentorship, not just a one-off come to my retreat or hear me speak, but it's ongoing support, guidance, and mentorship. If you think about you when you came back, when you first landed coming out of the military, you're back in civilian life. If you were partnered up with a troubled teen who was struggling with identity and what to do in life and bad environment and all, would you feel mentally ready to engage in that kind of relationship, or no?
Yeah, I think it would be, me personally, I would, because I had the background and all that. It would be individually, not everybody would be. I mean, some, veterans getting out need a serious time of decompression. They need to go on a nice long vacation, like getting out of the bad stuff and just recuperating in their whole being, and getting healthy, but I think I see where you're going with that. I think it could be really good connecting young people at risk with veterans who are able to, communicate and work with young people. They need to go through some kind of, training to help them identify, things. But yeah, I think it might be good.
The reason why, okay, so I think it's maybe separating the kind of veteran coming out, because I've worked with a bunch of veterans who are starting businesses. That's why they're coming to me. And some of them are very ready to go and love the discipline and will give them a roadmap. I will follow the roadmap. I will get it done. I will not complain. I'll wake up and I'll do my emails and I'll do my content. You think that's hard? Try getting up at whatever in the morning and doing drills. This is easy compared to, so the discipline that's been trained into them, they can easily follow a map. Some of them though, it's they're on suicide watch, and I can't give you a business plan to focus on because you just need love right now. It's a big difference. And so somebody who's like that, there's a lot of substance abuse and a lot of that stuff coming out, you probably wouldn't want to look at as a mentor for, at-risk youth. But others, it's just they have mental issues that have to be dealt with, and help and therapy and community to help through that. But there's another core group who just need community. They lost their brothers and sisters, they're waking up every day and they're doing this thing together, and now they're all by themselves and they have no
That's
purpose.
One of the biggest, that's one of the biggest challenges, is being part of a really super cohesive group of people that your life depends on and their life depends on you every day, all day. And then having that just ripped out of your life overnight, literally,
So that's where,
huge.
If you're partnering them, if you're giving them a purpose again, you're giving them a mentee, you're giving them somebody who, if you look at risk youth, they're often badly need discipline and structure and mentorship and guidance and leadership. And hey, look what people come out of the military. You're trained in leadership and guidance and discipline, right? So that could be a good, and great mentee-mentor relationships. The mentor learns just as much as the mentee. They're just learning something different. And so that could be a great model where you're taking two people who are at risk for different reasons and bringing them together to heal and give purpose and connection to each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think, I've looked at different statistics, and it's just, you see, one thing is even the education system is not designed for, veterans. It's the latest statistics I looked at is that over 75% of veterans who initially signed up for, a college fund bonus, whatever, they got $60,000, $70,000 of college money coming. They get into the college system, and the way college works is so radically different from the military education system that 75% of them fail out. And the schools really don't care because the school got their money. They have their money. And
how did you fund the retreats when you were a pastor, youth pastor? How did you fund those 3-week retreats?
I made them.
What do you mean you made them? Who paid for them?
Well, the kids the families that could afford them paid for them. The ones that couldn't, we all got together and we'd have fundraisers. So for example, we'd have a car wash. And so instead of just putting out signs and having a car wash, we had a sponsorship. And so each child, or kid, they had, a sponsorship paper, and they went to family and friends and whoever and said, will you sponsor me to wash cars? And, Sally has a page full of, 30 people giving her $1 for each car that she washes. And we made history making the most money off a car wash. We paid for on this one particular camp, we paid for the entire camp just off of one car wash. bake sales. I mean, there's all kind of ways that, church groups raise money for stuff they want. But for me, I wanted to get the kids involved in doing something more entrepreneurial. I've always had that entrepreneurial mindset. So
honestly, I think you could do a lot just going back to your roots, and that you're doing that. If that becomes part of the goal is, hey, we're going to connect veterans to at-risk youth and the veterans to each other and the at-risk youth to each other. You can have events where they're all together, but it's not just the retreat, but it's also the ongoing support by having somebody that you can call on to say, hey, Jay, I'm really struggling today. I don't know what to do because X is happening in my life.
Yeah.
Even things like, hey, my friend just got shot or whatever, like a veteran can probably answer that question. It's like, what happened to me? So, in building the momentum there, I think if you go back to your roots and start creating some similar things like the retreat, but plus, or a smaller version of a retreat, plus the ongoing support and connection of veterans talking to the youth, I think that you have a pretty unique business model to start off with. That even at the beginning is bake sales and car washes, and like those teaches the basics of entrepreneurship. I started selling baseball cards. It's like, hey, if you can afford this, or your family can afford this, cool. Here's how much it costs. If you can't, then here are 10 ideas you can use to start making some money so that you can get into the program, and you work with them to create the car wash plane and like basic things that everybody could do. It's not that you have to have venture capital funding to be able to get this thing going. It's like, hey, it's going to cost this, and let me teach you that, because you're teaching them to fish, right? It's like, hey, let me teach you how to, and even just that, what an incredible gift to show people that you can be self-reliant, that you're not going to maybe be a millionaire doing car washes, but you can get started and you can start making some money. You can start to believe in yourself a little bit more. I think just building up that momentum, and then I think amazing things will happen. Like I think it's the kind of thing, like if you kept on the retreats, they wouldn't just be 3-week retreats and doing car washes to get in anymore. There'd be something much bigger now. I think you'll end up with tons of opportunities to work with, whether they're corporate sponsors, whether they're wealthy donors, whether it's people who just love the military or love supporting at-risk youth, whether they're brands that come in, the support for the military, especially in America, is amazing. Veterans themselves who've gone on and had, like any veteran that's gone on, the number of veterans who've left the military then go start super successful businesses would be interested in supporting. But I think the problem that you've got is, if you've got this big idea, which is amazing, you need to have a huge idea. I love it. But if you need $50 million to build the first version of it, it doesn't happen, right? Like $50 million is a small version of it. It takes too long to get there. And you spend your time just talking to people instead of actually building up momentum, where the path to get there is to have the big dream, awesome, and start right now. Start small. Start as soon as possible. Start with a mini retreat. Start with pairing 3 veterans with 3 at-risk youth. Start with you connecting with an at-risk youth and you being one of the people who's doing the mentorship, right? So you start building that momentum up, and you've already have kind of a template to follow with the youth path or stuff. The only thing you're missing is the Big Brother component to it, which is why I suggested Big Brother. It wouldn't be exactly the same, but if you look at how they structure it, there might be some lessons for you and learnings and say, okay, if this was Big Veteran now, or your veteran mentor, guide, confidant, then I think you could start building a traction that leads to a lot of other opportunities.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Well, I definitely, I have thought about the little steps, what I need to build up to that. And I guess, I see the big picture, and a lot of the steps, it's just trying to put it all together. And I haven't found like a manual or anything that says, how to start XYZ that I want to start. I mean, there's a ton of stuff out there, how to start a business, but nothing related to this that I found yet,
Well,
so I may be the one that
you're building it.
writes the book on it.
That's it. You're building your movement. This is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Because you care. Lots of people care about, about youth and disadvantaged youth, and lots of people care about the military and veterans. But I've never heard anybody who cares so deeply about both. And in the genius of the and, most people look at the or. Do I do this or this? No, the answer is both. Like but not and separately, and inside the same thing. That by solving the problem for the youth, you're also solving the problem for the veterans at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody's done that before.
Well, and see, it's one thing I learned from my crappy childhood fairy, Anna Runkle. That the statistics are really high that children that have CPTSD, that complex PTSD or childhood PTSD, have a very high prevalence of going into the military. Because a lot of what they're looking for gets answered by the military. So they go into the military with all these ideas that this is where it's going to be good for me. And then they get more highly traumatized,
Yeah.
But the needs are the same for young people. And, a lot of the people that are getting out of the military, I mean, they go in at 17 or 18, they're in for 2 to 4 years. They're barely adults when they get out. A lot of them, 18, 19, 20, 21, they're not even legal when they get out,
Okay, so listen.
And so they're still young people.
3lz.official just posted, I care deeply about both. I'm a veteran as well. I'm also a parent, and I'm doing that in California, raising awareness of veterans and raising huge awareness for youth. We need to work together. So 3lz.official. Go DM Jay and say, I'm 3LZ from the chat. I want to work together. Like, Jay, this is now whether 3LZ becomes your long-term business partner forever, or you just have a good conversation. Like we're building momentum now for this idea.
Yeah.
And it's just taking it off of paper that we need to have $50 million and this big, huge thing, and turn it into, okay, yes, big dream. I love it. And actionable steps right now. 3LZ wants to work with you on this just by you coming on and sharing your story. And the more you share and the more you start building up momentum, and the more it becomes something real, as opposed to just like right now we come with a concept of veterans mentoring youth. That's a concept. But as you start doing it, now you have stories to share. Now you have momentum around it. Now you have people saying it's like this. So the more you make it tangible, the more people can hop on board and say, I want to be a part of this too.
Yeah.
The only thing I would caveat with is when you said complex, I would probably avoid the complex cases. If there's the people who need the just a camaraderie and the brotherhood and the feeling of purpose, and they just want to be a part of something, and that's the only thing they're missing. That's a good chunk of people. But the youth, a lot of them, they just need someone who believes in them. That will solve a lot of the problems. They have nobody in their life who believes in them. And a lot of the veterans, they just need to be part of something again and feel like they have some kind of purpose. The complex cases, I would at least at the beginning, for me personally, probably leave to. They're not like professionals trained in children's psychology and all this stuff. So the complex cases, you might want to suggest other resources for people to go to.
Well, that's the $50 million part. That's where the doctors and the nurses, the whole staff and the location and all that.
So step one is do the easy stuff, right? Like, because just the belief and just the brotherhood and just the mentorship is tremendous value. It's insane value for people. And you're working towards building up something bigger. Yeah, 3LZ official
and this is,
says, be what we never had. There you go. You guys, there you go. I'm excited to see what happens out of your call.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, I know we're just about done here, but one thing that this is not about America only, because America probably has the best veteran system. The VA system is like number one in America for the world. It's their example. A lot of countries have nothing. You look at the top 100 countries.
I don't want to interrupt you, but it's important on this one because you can keep dreaming bigger and bigger and bigger. I love it, dude.
Yeah.
That's why I love you. because you got big goals and big dreams. You want to change the world. I love it, dude. I love it.
Start local.
Yeah. Like start
local.
Start with 3LZ in California. Start like, where are you? Where's home for you?
Yeah. I'm right now. It's Arkansas.
You start in Arkansas. Or like find 3 veterans in Arkansas to partner with 3, just to have momentum and just to start building. And don't lose sight. Like, you need the big vision and the big goal and change the world. Like, already just America is huge. Carmichael, that's not enough for me. I want to change the world. I love it, dude. I love it. And what ends up happening is it becomes so big that then it's too scary. And then you need $100 million. And then it never happens. Right. And so big ideas. Yes. Keep like, that's the motivation, but you have to start local and start small, and you've already done it. Like, that's the great thing for you. You've already done the blueprint. You've already done the garage sales and the car washes and the bake sales and that kind of stuff to start building up traction. And that's the next. So it's like big goal and then next step. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, what day is it? Today is Monday. By like Monday next week, stuff has to have happened beyond just more notes on a piece of paper and more like where it could go of changing the whole world. Right? Like in the next week, you've got your big goal, and the big mission might change a little bit, but you've got it. Like, you want to change the world with veterans and youth. Huge, amazing. You're never going to do that all the way, by the way, right? Like, it's a goal that will survive your lifetime, and what a gift that you can bring the world.
Generations. For
sure. And unfortunately, you know, like wars, veterans are, it's just, you know, and youth are still going to have problems, you know, so you're every day waking up trying to solve an impossible problem, and that's amazing and inspiring. And by this time next week, you should have had your call with our friend here in the chat. You should have reached out to 3 people in Arkansas to try to find some mentees and some mentors to try to start making collaborations happen, so that by next week, there's, even if it feels small, it's like it's not enough. It's not compared to where you want to go, but it's everything that's missing right now. Mm-hmm. The only thing that's missing right now is momentum and action towards building the thing that you want to build. So we don't need more stats and more like where the problems. Well, no, it's there. You already believe that. There's some people that when I connect with, all they're doing is like the next step, and they have no big mission or big goals. Like, I don't know what I want to do. I'm stuck doing this thing that I hate, but I don't know what else. You know what you want to build. So we don't need to spend more time there. You need to spend time on like, okay, this time next week, what has happened, and making those kind of week by week plans. Nike Eventpreneur says, I would love to join in too. Cool. Well, listen, DMJ, you know, and this becomes part of sharing the story. You know, the more you get it out there, the more you start building momentum. Like, if one of these people decides, hey, I want to start this in California, cool. Like, that was never in your roadmap or your plan, but now we've got momentum happening in California and Arkansas, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing. I know we're a little over, but that's really the only thing. You've got the heart, you've got the mission of where you want to go. The only thing that's missing is the small action steps to start building momentum. Right.
Okay.
I love it, man.
I appreciate it. I love you, man. Take care.
I love you coming on. I love you sharing. I love you being open. I mean, it's great to have you Mover Makers, and you're in for at least a year. So I'm excited to see all the growth and progress that you're going to be making over the next year.
All right. Great.
All right. Thank you, Jay. And congrats. First Instagram Live. First of many that's going to come. All right. See you soon, Jay. Take care. If you want to see another awesome one-on-one I did with an entrepreneur just like you, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there. Nobody signed up because they're going to learn it in 3 steps or 7 steps, or it doesn't bring any extra value to the person who's going to watch the video. It's not the only way to make content.